This is a document that we have just obtained that has not been published elsewhere. It is from Attorney General Merrick Garland. It is addressed to all Justice Department employees. It is dated May 25th, 2022. So that's about 8 weeks ago. But again, we believe the first time this document has been shown to the public. As you can see, it is titled Election Year Sensitivities. Department of Justice employees are entrusted with the authority to enforce the laws of the United States and with the responsibility to do so in a neutral and impartial manner. This is particularly important in an election year now that the 2022 election season is upon us. And as in prior election cycles, I am issuing this memorandum to remind you of the department's existing policies with respect to political activities. And again, this is a memo that is from Attorney General Merrick Garland. It has his signature on the top of it in blue ink. And then it says this under the heading Statements, Investigations, and Charging Near an Election. Quote, the Department of Justice has a strong interest in the prosecution of election-related crimes, such as those involving federal and state campaign finance laws, federal patronage laws, corruption of the election process. As department employees, however, we must be particularly sensitive to safeguarding the department's reputation for fairness, neutrality, and nonpartisanship. Simply put, partisan politics must play no role in the decisions of federal investigators or prosecutors regarding any investigations or criminal charges. Law enforcement officers and prosecutors may never select the timing of public statements, attributed or not, meaning on background or not, investigative steps, criminal charges, or any other action in any matter or case for the purpose of affecting any election or for the purpose of giving an advantage or disadvantage to any candidate or political party. Such a purpose or the appearance of such a purpose is inconsistent with the department's mission and with the principles of federal prosecution. If you face an issue or the appearance of an issue regarding the timing of statements, investigative steps, charges, or other actions near the time of a primary or general election, contact the Public Integrity section of the Criminal Division for further guidance. Such consultation is also required at various stages of all criminal matters that focus on violations of federal and state campaign finance laws, federal patronage crimes, and corruption of the election process. And now get this. Finally, department employees must also adhere to the additional requirements issued by the Attorney General on February 5th, 2020. February 5th, 2020, governing the opening of criminal and counterintelligence investigations by the department, including its law enforcement agencies, related to politically sensitive individuals and entities. See Memorandum of Attorney General William Barr, February 5th, 2020. Any questions regarding the scope or requirements of the February 2020 Attorney General's memorandum should be directed to the Public Integrity section. Again, this memo from Merrick Garland to the Justice Department, to all Justice Department employees, was sent out about 8 weeks ago in late May. We have just obtained it. We believe this is the first time it's been made public.
Okay, so here's the thing. While it's probably not a big deal that Garland put out a memo reiterating longstanding policy that the DOJ can't look like it's putting its thumb on the scales in an election, the fact that he's opted to keep Bill Barr's guidance in place is yet another reminder that this Attorney General constantly seems more interested in looking neutral than actually focused on upholding the law. Consider too, Bill Barr's guidance was put in place in February of 2020. And let's think long and hard here. Why might the Attorney General of the nation's most corrupt president want to have the final say personally on whether or not the Justice Department could investigate candidates for president? Yeah, real hard head scratcher here. I guess we'll never know. And beyond that, by deferring to Bill Barr's guidance, which creates an extraordinarily high bar to investigate active candidates, Garland is basically sending a smoke signal to Donald Trump to go ahead and announce his candidacy, because then it'll become that much more difficult for the DOJ to investigate the guy, because very clearly the DOJ's top priority is not seeming political. And what do you know? Here's an article from Rolling Stone from this weekend in which they report that Trump told his team he needs to be president again to save himself from criminal prosecution. And knowing the extent to which Merrick Garland's apparent first, second, and third priority is the optics of the Justice Department, as opposed to, say, justice, well, that's even more motivation for Trump to go ahead and announce soon. Let's just be clear here. When the DOJ takes steps like this one, they might be trying to protect our institutions, but all they're doing is exacerbating their demise. Consider, too, if you decide not to prosecute someone because you're worried about the political optics, that is inherently political. That's you saying that you are placing political considerations above the actual law. So maybe stop floundering about how people might think they look and instead just do their jobs. Maybe, just maybe, constantly talking about how they might be perceived is only feeding the narrative that the DOJ is acting in a way that's political. So look, the way it seems, and again, I don't know what's happening at the Justice Department, so I can only speak from my perception of all of this, is that the DOJ is more concerned with not seeming political than it is about actually, oh, I don't know, prosecuting criminals. Sure, Donald Trump might have violated his oath of office. Sure, he might have incited a faction of insurrectionists to storm the US Capitol. Sure, he knew they were armed. Sure, he tried to validate that armed mob by attempting to march alongside them. Sure, he tried to get them to block certification of the election results. Sure, he tried to get insurrectionists to assassinate his own Vice President Mike Pence. Sure, he attempted to knowingly defraud the American people. Sure, he's still trying to this day to intimidate witnesses before they come testify for the January 6th committee. Sure, we have evidence of all of that, but God forbid the Justice Department looks like they're doing something political. Because of all the corrupt political acts here, that's the one people are worried about. Got it. So amid the glacial pace at which the DOJ is moving, I would just say this. At this point, knowing the eagerness with which Donald Trump will commit crimes and continues to commit crimes, if the DOJ fails to prosecute him, the next act of criminality won't only be on Donald Trump, it'll also be on Merrick Garland and the Justice Department. I mean, seriously, imagine if you've got a guy who robbed 6 banks, and all the cops in town know he's robbed 6 banks, but it's been 18 months and no one's done a single thing to hold that bank robber accountable. At some point, the anger starts to turn toward the cops. If your job is to uphold the law and you're not upholding the law, then my God, what the hell are you even doing? I am very tired of watching bureaucrats fall over themselves to defend the institutions that the bad guys have long since figured out how to game. Because here we are, 18 months after a violent coup attempt at the US Capitol, one of the worst attacks on this country in modern American history, and the Attorney General is more concerned about the Justice Department's optics than actually upholding justice. If that isn't losing the plot, I don't know what is. So look, again, I say all of this with the caveat that I don't know what's happening at the Justice Department, and they may very well be ready to indict Trump tomorrow. But based on the reporting, on the January 6th committee's comments, and from the fact that it's now July of 2022 and we still have no clue whether the guy who incited a coup attempt at the US Capitol a year and a half ago is even going to face a single charge, I think it's probably safe to say that the DOJ's entire reputation rests on whether it has the courage to actually do its job. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And to support my work beyond that, check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I cover the week's most important stories and interview the biggest players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, and so many more. The link is also right here on this screen. And finally, to take action yourself and sign petitions on the most important issues, go to briantylercohen.com/petition.